Hello and welcome to Keep Right On, a Birmingham City podcast by us here at Birmingham Live. I'm Brian Dick and I'll shortly introduce our Blues reporter Alex Dicken. Just to set the table for you, we are 2 games into the Tony Mowbray era, 2 unbeaten games, late goals, progress in the FA Cup. It's all been jam, hasn't it, Alex Dicken?
Yes, thank you, Brian. And progress on the pitch, I think, as well, in the first 2 games under Tony Mowbray. Obviously, you know, a late fought back twice against Swansea to get a point, a deserved point, it must be said at least. And then again, another fight back against Hull City on Tuesday in the FA Cup to get a 2-1 win. We'll come on to it in greater depth, I know, but it's been all positive so far, really, in the sound bites Mowbray has given and in the performances we've seen on the pitch. I've been nothing but impressed.
Yeah, so from the opening press conference last Thursday, I think it was, at Henley and Arden, to trying to find a Wi-Fi signal in the Nag's Head, to the comeback against Swansea City, to last night with a much changed team. It just feels altogether more sensible. So we'll first up, I suppose, is a little bit of chat about last night's FA Cup win, and then we'll draw some sort of strings together, or any threads that we can regarding what we think may have changed in the last 2 games. We'll have a look ahead at the next 5 matches, most of which, 4 of which are away from home, and then, as ever, we'll take your questions and takes. So yeah, you were there last night, Alex. Birmingham City 2, Hull City 1, loads of changes. In fact, I think Hull put out a completely different 11. So what were your main takeaways from last night's 2-1 win?
Yeah, 7 changes of Blues. Well, I was speaking to Tony Mowbray afterwards, and he said that he'd earmarked the first 2 games to have a look at everyone. And he's pretty much done just that now. Changed the front line completely. Didn't play a centre-back. We'll come on to that in a little bit. But it was actually not bad in the first half. Blues probably had more territory. Created some decent openings. There were a couple of chances. Obviously, Lungello hit the post. Jordan James put in a very decent ball that Ramel Donovan was inches away from connecting with in the middle. Blues obviously started with the 4-2-3-1 formation that Mowbray played against Swansea as well, but it was without a striker this time. It was Ramel Donovan was the furthest forward. Jordan James as well, just behind him. Mowbray said afterwards it was like playing with 2 false 9s, as he did at Sunderland. We know, Sunderland last season under Mowbray had issues with strikers. Spent most of the second half of the season playing without one, so it was similar to that. Blues didn't really have the cutting edge in the box. I think at the start of the second half, I really started to notice it in the first 15 minutes of that, when Blues are putting some very inviting crosses into the box, particularly through Manny Lungello and Oliver Burke as well from the right hand side, and there was just nobody in there. Fair play to Mowbray. He used all of his 5 subs in one fell swoop in the 64th minute, and introduced 5 quality players from the bench, and it made a huge difference. And Blues were completely dominant in the final 25 minutes of the game, and there was only really, in my opinion, although Hull boss Liam Rosenior thought differently, only one team that was going to win it, and Blues got their rewards right at the end and saved us all from extra time on a cold Tuesday evening.
Yeah, indeed. You mentioned the fact there was no centre back, so no centre forward either, was there really? So there was 7 changes, no strikers, no central defenders, and Blues have come from behind and gone through. So did it to you, given those parameters of not having sort of round pegs in round holes, particularly? Did the organisation look okay, even though it was a makeshift team, which potentially only had 1 or 2 days to work on it?
Yeah, defensively, they limited Hull to few chances, really. Even if you look at the Hull goal, it was, in my opinion, a mistake by Christian Bielik. He's got to mop that up. He's taken a poor touch, and Billy Sharp's nipped in, and then, the overlap has come, and in the position that Bielik has vacated in the middle, Lokilo's kind of just ran in and slid in the cross and scored. So that came against the run of play, that goal, and there wasn't really a great deal for Hull from there on, to be honest. They had a few moments in the second half before the changes, but nothing that suggests Blues were on the back foot at all. And we'll come on to the statistics later, but they look quite good in the first 2 Mowbray games. I thought the organisation structure was quite good. I think that's the one thing I've noticed in the first 2 games under Mowbray, and that they've gone back to a 4-2-3-1 shape where everyone seems quite comfortable. But even when Blues attack, there's a solid three-man defence there, because Lee Buchanan, the left back, has been tucking inside, and Cody Dramé has been given a little bit more licence. Last night, Buchanan was at centre back. So it was actually Longelo at left back, and Longelo was the fullback, given more licence to roam forward, and Cody Dramé at right back was tucking inside, showing another string to his bow. And Dramé actually went to centre back for the final 25 minutes and looked quite comfortable there. So, the centre back thing. If you looked at Mowbray's Sunderland team last year, I think they got to the playoff semi-finals and they played a back 3. And one of the outside centre backs was Lyndon Gooch, who's a winger by trade. So he's all 4 auxiliary centre backs, and that worked well. Yeah, and Luke O'Nien as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's basically become a centre back. He's basically become a centre back now. So he's obviously experimenting and trying to find players who can play there. Dramé looked okay there. Bielik, I know he made the mistake and looked very ropey in the first half at times, but second half he did improve and was very dominant and strong on the front foot. So maybe they are options going forward for him.
Yeah, so obviously the game kind of the game turned on the 5 substitutions. I think, to be fair, John Ruddy also pulled out, wasn't a great save. It was a save you expected him to make, but it was an important save, wasn't it? Just before Blues equalised, but it was those 5 substitutions. So on came Sunjic, on came Miyoshi, Dembele, Tyler Roberts, Jay Stansfield, and off went Longelo Anderson, Gary Gardner, Ramel Donovan, and Oliver Burke. So you really are sort of, by that time you get into something like the A team, aren't you? And it was a noticeable turnaround, and felt like Hull weren't really. I know they put some senior players on as well, didn't they, towards the end of the game? But it felt like they weren't really in it, and they were there for the taking. Then, do you agree with that?
Yeah, there were a few young players in that whole back line as well. Yeah. As soon as that quality came on in forward areas for Blues, I thought there was only one team going to score, and it took 2.5-3 minutes before Stansfield got the equaliser. To be fair, it wasn't great goalkeeping. It was a long shot by Miyoshi that was parried out, but a very, very good finish from Stansfield, rifled into the roof of the net, and that's what we've come to expect from him. But yeah, Blues were the team that was pushing late on and found a few decent openings before a ball broke Stansfield. Pullback was good. Miyoshi air swing, but second attempt got it in there, and it was, in my opinion, just rewards for the performance, but also for the bravery of Tony Mowbray, because how often you see a manager make 5 subs in one go? When it was 3, you saw that sometimes. You see 3 now still, but for 5 in one go with 30 minutes of a cup tie that could go to extra time to go, that's a pretty big risk, as he admitted afterwards, but it paid off.
Yeah, particularly when Bacuna went down late on as well, and they potentially at that stage were looking at extra time with 10 men, weren't they, just for a brief time? So. Yeah, I suppose Mowbray's real motivation was getting through without extra time, wasn't it? And they've done that, and it's just nice to be the one scoring late goals and winning games. And Leicester City away. I mean, the cup draw this season has been the definition of underwhelming, hasn't it? It really has. A trip to Hull and now a trip to Leicester. But yeah, what that will do is it'll shunt the Middlesbrough game into midweek, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, it should.
But that's a free hit, isn't it? And be interesting to see what Enzo Maresca does with the Leicester team as well. Obviously, one of the talking points from last night was Stansfield coming off the bench and scoring his equaliser. And there was also it was a Jude Bellingham-esque photo. About 3 years ago, it was a January transfer window. And Jude scored and ran towards the corner of the Kop, pointing at the ground, saying, "I'm staying here." And this was at a time when Man United, speculation linking him with Man United was absolutely fevered. There's a photo of Stansfield, looked to be doing something similar, wasn't there? Sort of pointing to the turf as though he was staying here. And you spoke to Tony Mowbray after that as well. What were the sort of the tones coming out as regarding that, and do you read anything into that picture?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I'm reading into at the moment is that Fulham haven't recalled him, and we're 17 days in. We're almost 3 weeks into the window. He's been allowed to play 4 games this month, including 2 FA Cup games, which means he'd be cup tied for whatever team he joined next. So that's the most positive thing I'm taking away from it. And Tony Mowbray said himself that he's spoken to Stansfield, had a one-on-one with him. He's had a one-on-one with most players now, pretty much everyone, and said that he thinks Stansfield wants to stay here and that he's happy here. He likes it in the dressing room. He likes the players. He's obviously built up a good rapport with the fans as well. He's a contender for player of the season in that he's got 8 goals in 20-odd games. And he's been a game changer for Blues. Scored some really big goals. And again, against Hull, he scored another. So the Mowbray did warn against, Stansfield leaving and going to a team at towards the top of the table. It's obviously Ipswich Town, and not playing so much football, because they're doing so well. And whereas at Blues, he's going to play, Mowbray said himself, most of the minutes here between now and the end of the season. So I think it'd be a sensible decision to stay at Blues. It feels like the right one. There's obviously some time on that little window, that recall window to go, but all the noise is pointing towards him staying now. Mowbray seemed quite confident of that, which is obviously a big positive for Blues.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stansfield doesn't look like a player who's agitating to leave to move on or leave the club. His body language is good. His effort levels are very good. So yeah, hopefully the signs are pointing that he should stay. I wonder, speculating now, I wonder had Rooney still been here, Rooney really wasn't getting the best out of him, and I wonder if that situation might have been different. But at the moment, potential playing wherever he'll play in that 4-2-3-1, if it's as a false 9 or a 10, or probably not the one. I don't think, maybe off the side of the 3. It does seem to have his role, and he's it just all points to keeping the show on the road for now and having a proper good season, and going back to Fulham in the summer and taking it from there. So yeah, hopefully no news is good news on that front. I think Blues are looking at trying to sort of strike an early agreement with Fulham that he won't go back, but until it's till that window is actually closed, then there is a little bit of anxiety. I want to talk about Christian Bielik as well. You've kind of mentioned that he was at fault for the first goal, which he was really. He misjudged a bouncing ball on halfway, didn't he? And then he never looks like getting back. And I felt he was really quite poor against Swansea on Saturday. Obviously, he's a deep lying midfielder, and you could see Tony Mowbray's frustration with him, couldn't you? For slowing the ball down, for taking 2 or 3 touches, sometimes for doing like a whole 360-degree turn before he even looked to play forward, and often he wouldn't then play forward. What are you thinking about where Bielik is and how he fits into the machine?
He's become a real talking point, hasn't he? When at the start of the season, first 10, 11 games, he was a talking point for being probably the standout player and most important player in John Eustace's system. But again, it's horses for courses, isn't it? And he should technically, because we know he's a good player, be able to fit into this style of play. But there have obviously been teething issues. And in Mowbray's first 2 games, there have been problems again. Swansea, I thought he was actually probably one of the poorest Blues players, if I'm being honest. There were multiple instances where a ball's dropped to him in midfield and he's had the chance to play forward quickly, and because he's not kind of got it out of his feet, he's had to turn backwards, and you saw Mowbray completely exasperated on the touchline. So there are obviously problems there. At centre-back, I actually thought he started poorly against Hull. I thought he grew into it as Blues became more aggressive and played more on the front foot, particularly after the subs happened. It seemed to suit him. I don't think he wasn't playing against Hull's first choice striking option in Liam Delap, or even Aaron Connolly. So, there's not really a lot to judge him on there as a centre back. I don't think he's going to be a centre back long term. But as I mentioned earlier, Mowbray has created auxiliary centre backs in the past. I think he needs to improve, doesn't he? He needs to get better because Blues have invested a lot in him, in signing him from Derby and giving him a 3-year contract. With Christian Bielik, a Poland international, somebody who's been good for Blues over the last 18 months. We shouldn't be talking about him moving on in the summer, or him not being suited to this style of play. He needs to get better. He needs to fit in.
Yeah, and I actually thought there were signs of it. Obviously, with Eustace, as you said, he was a key player, and he seemed to play his role really well in the machine. I keep calling it, his cog. I thought with Rooney there were signs. Rooney obviously wanted to do what Mowbray's trying to do and be more expensive, and there were signs that Bielik was finding that difficult. Now, I thought at the time that was potentially because other players weren't showing for the ball and weren't making it easy for him. Maybe we're seeing at the moment he just needs too much time on the ball. Mowbray talked after the Swansea game about wanting his midfielder players just to turn it around the corner and get it into the tens or the attackers, didn't he? Really quickly, one touch taking a line out and then running at the defence with guys like Miyoshi and Stansfield and Dembele and people like that. So yeah, there's a little bit of thinking to do, not just for Mowbray, but primarily for Bielik, isn't it? As to it's his career. He's the one that needs to come up with the answers. And as you say, he's a Poland international. He's spent many years at Arsenal. He's been part of a good Derby team. There's no reasons why he shouldn't be able to come up with these answers. But I guess for me, if ever it's effectively playing the same position, but if ever a style, a change of style magnified what the different requirements are, albeit for someone in the same position, then Bielik's first 10 games and his last sort of 15 really are that, because he's been brilliant at the start and then is really struggling latterly.
Yeah, he has tailed off. But yeah, I guess we just got to hope that he can adapt. As I said, I don't see him as centre back. I don't think he's got the speed to play that. If you're gonna press higher and leave defenders isolated, I don't think you want Bielik there. Dion Sanderson and Kevin Long have got that turn of foot, haven't they? But then again, if your back four becomes a back three in possession and Christian Bielik's the man in the middle, then maybe he's got that added protection. We'll have to see how it plays out moving forwards. But Bielik has to improve, and we know, like you say, Brian, he's got that quality. So hopefully he can start to show it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just looking at the two matches, if we can thread anything to any sort of consistent observations. Obviously, there was the 2-2 draw at home to Swansea, a late Jordan James equaliser, really well hit, to be fair. Gave Blues a point on Mowbray's debut, and then last night's 2-1. So they've scored 2 in both of his games, which is obviously good. Are there anything sort of abiding observations or anything that comes out for you from the first two matches, the sort of the changes from what we were seeing under Rooney?
Yeah, we know that Blues want to transition to this passing, possession-based style of play. Mowbray says he wants 60% possession, 20-something shots a game. Blues aren't quite at that yet, but we have, probably noticed improvements on that side more quickly than expected. They had more shots than Swansea, 11-6. They had 47% possession against Swansea when Mowbray expected Swansea, a team, well known for playing that possession-based style of football, to dominate the ball and have 60-odd% possession. 21 fouls, Swansea's 11, which probably shows they're aggressive in their press, and I thought they were quite effective at that against Swansea. Onto the Hull game, 14 shots to Hull 7, 56% possession. How many times have Blues had more possession than their opponent this season? Not many. More corners and more offsides. I don't know, we're not sitting here celebrating offsides, but at least shows Blues are playing in the right areas, doesn't it? I've noticed, as I mentioned, a clear structure that Mowbray spoke about his unveiling about, so many championship teams now play with 2 formations, one in defence and one in attack. And last night it was a 3-5-2 when they were going forward almost with two false nines, and obviously back into a 4-2-3-1 when they were defending. He seems to give one of the fullbacks a little bit more license to roam, which, to be fair, if you look at the four players who you would have in Blues defence when everyone is available, which for me would be Ethan Laird at right back, Dion Sanderson, Kevin Long and Lee Buchanan, I do think those four are suited to the way Mowbray wants to play, because you've got Buchanan, who's a slightly more defensively minded left back who can tuck in and become that extra centre back when Blues have the ball, and you've got Ethan Laird, who has the ability to do so much damage going forward. I mentioned to you during this Swansea game, I think, about how influential Niall Huggins was for Mowbray's Sunderland team. He was absolutely superb against Blues back in the November game, and he was playing at right back. But whenever Sunderland had the ball, he clearly just had the freedom to go wherever he wanted. He was popping up on the right wing. He was popping up in midfield positions, in number 10 positions, and he had a couple of chances in that game. So, maybe Mowbray can give Ethan Laird some added freedom, because we know he's got the ability to go and hurt teams. Might be harsh on Cody Dramé because he's been excellent at right back this season, but long term, Dramé at the moment isn't Blues player, Laird is Blues player. So, that's definitely something that I think will become more prevalent and prominent going forward. The structure, attacking in terms of the press has been much more effective. We know Wayne Rooney wanted to introduce that, but I think Mowbray has obviously tweaked something on the training ground and made Blues more effective in that press, and they are winning the ball back higher up, and we saw that against Hull with both goals. So and we saw it against Swansea as well, with Hogan setting up Dembele for the goal. So yeah, I think there are a lot of really positive signs, and I didn't expect to see these signs so quickly. I don't think Mowbray did either. I'm not saying Blues are going to be, the team that Mowbray and everyone wants by the end of the season, but it shows that these players can do it with the right coaching.
Yeah, I was really struck. Two things struck me at Swansea. You're looking for the big changes in the first 10 minutes, and you go, "Oh, that's a stark contrast." I was surprised at how high up Blues pressed. It really was in by the corner, the Swansea corner flag at times, wasn't it? They really were all over Swansea like a rash, and I'd fallen for Mowbray's sort of pre-match preamble saying that if we do that badly against Swansea, we'll get picked off. So I was quite surprised that they were so front-footed, and I was surprised at how much they played. Particularly John Ruddy was again. I don't want to make him out like Edison, but he was stroking passes around, wasn't he? And Blues were playing a lot more football in deep positions than I expected them to. Particularly given what had been just patterned for the previous 3 months.
Yeah.
They tried it for 2 or 3 games. It had gone really badly. They'd been massively open against Middlesbrough and then against Hull. And then Rooney tried to put the genie back in the bottle and be a bit more pragmatic. And still there were times when the players seemed to take it on their own and do it anyway, didn't they? But they just felt a little bit better at it on Saturday. So I was shocked by that, and for me, listen, this is an absolute throwaway comment, and it doesn't mean that one's a brilliant manager and one's a rubbish manager. Mowbray's demeanor on the touchline is much more transparent than Rooney's, wasn't it? Now, I'm not. I promise you, I'm not one of these guys that says, if a manager's standing impassively, then they don't care. It's not about body language. You can get a performing chimp to come and leap around the technical area if that's what you want. But Mowbray is very, very transparent with his emotions, isn't he? You reference his reactions to Bielik sort of pirouetting, and he'd throw his head in his hands, and he'd rub his face, or he'd turn back to the bench, and when the goals went in, when Blues conceded the goal, he'd chuck the water bottle around. It's more entertaining. It's theatre, isn't it? And it's been interesting from that point of view, just to watch Mowbray a little bit, really, because Rooney was so impassive and seemed. I guess he's quite a chilled back, laid back character. And it's not to say he didn't care. He wasn't taking it all in, because he clearly cared a hell of a lot. but that's just stood out for me. I don't really know how I've brought that up.
No, to add to that, Brian, from what I was told, speaking with Pete Shuttleworth at the training ground a few weeks ago when he filled in for one of Wayne Rooney's press conferences, is that Rooney, we know was quite a hot-headed player, made that kind of decision to be more of a calm coach, and I suppose he wanted to exude those messages from the touchline in that he was calm and collected. He's probably a different character behind closed doors. But Mowbray, bit of a throwback in that he's very animated on the touchline, isn't he? You can tell just from watching him, and we obviously sit directly behind him in the press box. Who he thinks is doing well and who he thinks is not doing so well. So it helps the player ratings, that's for sure. But yeah, it's refreshing to see a guy so animated on the touchline. But again, I'm not like you. I don't really read too much into it in terms of what a manager is like on the touchline and whether he's calm or throwing things around. But yeah, it's quite obvious to tell what Mowbray is thinking just by watching him. So yeah, it's been interesting the first couple of games. Brian, one thing I wanted to come on to, and I think we both were in agreement after the Swansea game about this, but I know not everyone was, by the reaction I had to a post on social media, is that we thought Scott Hogan played quite well and was quite effective against Swansea. Just talk us through some of the things, because I think I've said my piece, but talk us through some of the things that impressed you about his performance in that particular game.
I'm actually interested that you got a bit of feedback on that as well, because I did. I was actually accused of being in Hogan's pay. For
That's a joke. That's a joke.
Indeed. Listen, I just wrote that I thought Hogan played well, and then suddenly that seemed to morph into a discussion about how he's never been any good for Blues and how they need to get rid. I do listen, for the record, as if it needs saying. Obviously, Blues need to part ways with Hogan. Certainly, they don't want to be handing him another contract on the terms that he's on at the moment, or we believe he's on at the moment. He seems to be such a trigger point of a player, doesn't he? To answer your question, I was really impressed with the way he pressed. He against Swansea, he didn't stop running. There was a real conviction about his work when that's not always been obvious. Let's put it that way. He played a part in the Dembele goal, albeit maybe a fairly minor one. He actually played a big part in setting Dembele up for what should have been 2-0 at the start of the second. Would it have been 2-1 at the start of the second half? But Carl Rushworth made a good save. I credit where it's due. Listen, in the last podcast, I think I said something about the lines I've had enough of Hogan. I can't watch Hogan anymore. So credit where it's due. The guy played well, and saying that seems to trigger people. It's saying someone plays well is not the same as saying they need a new contract and they're the man for the next 5 years. Because I think going forward, not just Hogan but other players as well, I think the space that them leaving will create in the budget is the main thing for Blues this summer. So yeah, listen, just thought the guy played well, was impressed by his effort level, thought he did a job for the team, and tellingly, whilst people were, we were all sort of asking Tony Mowbray about it, he kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, well, who else am I going to play up front, didn't he, in the post-match press conference? Yeah. An admission, obviously Duke, it would have been aware of Duke's calf injury. Obviously, Stansfield doesn't necessarily want to play up front. I don't think. Tyler Roberts hasn't got that game time in him yet. So Mowbray was just like, exactly, who else was it going to start?
Yeah, I think a couple of other things that he pointed out in that he obviously wants to kind of look at the things that the players he's got are good at. Firstly, and obviously we know Hogan's good at the press. When Hogan's interested in it and he's buying into what the manager's asking, then he's effective at that. We can all sit here and criticise some of the chances that he's missed, this season and last season in particular, but he is probably the most effective pressing number 9 Blues have got. So if he's bought into the way Mowbray wants to play and he can deliver it, then I'm all for him getting another chance. We know he's not going to be here much longer. So, yeah. Another interesting thing was that Mowbray pointed out that, he's had one-on-ones with every Blues player now. Scott Hogan was one of the first to knock on his door and basically ask for a conversation. It's probably because it went so badly for him under Wayne Rooney and that he was pretty much out of the door, in Rooney's final 3-4 weeks in the job. He didn't get in the final 3 squads that Rooney named and was cast aside. So it's a new start for him. And, he's for his own career as well. He's got to put himself in the shop window, hasn't he? If he's going to get another championship club or high-end League One club at the end of this season and get another decent contract. He's 31, probably going to be his last, isn't it? So, I think it works. It works well for Blues that maybe Scott Hogan's got something to play for going into the final 6 months of the season. Yeah,
which we all want to point out is not the saying. So, let's say it then. Hogan plays the last sort of 17, 18 games, scores 10 goals. You're left. Are you giving him a new contract, Alex? Go on. You're Tony Mowbray. Do you give Scott Hogan a new contract?
What now? Not now. We're speaking hypothetically there, Brian, aren't we? And I don't answer hypothetical questions.
Cheers, John.
10 goals in 17 games. You'd be bloody. Everyone would want to give him a contract, wouldn't they? Obviously, probably not on the terms that he's on now. You'd want to bring him in line with what everyone else who was signed last summer is on. But yeah. I mean, 10 goals in 17 games. Let's see it first, Brian. Let's see it.
Yeah, not for me. I think both parties need to go their own ways. It's my response to that. And if that helps Scott get a good contract elsewhere, then I'm all for it. I want nice things for everybody.
You're a nice man. Next 5 games, you mentioned it earlier, but Blues have got four away games on the spin now because of that FA Cup tie at Leicester next weekend. So Stoke away, Leicester away, West Brom away, Sheffield Wednesday away before Blackburn at home. What are you thinking going into these games? Because we've done these. I want to do a points prediction because I like to, make fools of us. And we've done these points predictions a few times now. And I think after Blues had a few good results over Christmas under Rooney, or just before Christmas, I predicted they might get 7 from 3 and they ended up getting 1. Or maybe 2. So yeah, Brian, if we're excluding the Leicester game because it's a free hit, isn't it? It's a cup game. Yeah. Hopefully, Enzo Maresca makes a load of changes and Blues nick a 1-0 win and go through and get a decent draw at home in the next round. But Stoke away, West Brom away, Sheffield Wednesday away, Blackburn at home. Stoke have improved under Stephen Schumacher. West Brom are going very well under Carlos Corberán. I think they're nailed on to finish 5th. I think they're not quite good enough to be in the top 4, but I think they're probably too good to get dragged into that battle for 6th. And then you've got Sheffield Wednesday away, who have improved under Danny Roll, and Blackburn, who are having a bit of a tough time under John Dahl Thomason. 4 games, Brian. Points prediction go.
Okay, so Mowbray's got a really bad record against Stoke. Our Stoke writer Pete Smith was desperate to point this out to me. I think he's got a bit of a thing rumbling along with Stoke as well, hasn't he? I did mean to check that before we came on. So yeah, I think they might have stylistic differences with Stoke, albeit maybe not the current Stoke team. Do I see Blues going and winning at Stoke? No, I'd say a draw. So that's 1. Leicester, it's a free hit. I'd love Blues to have a cup run. Last time they got to the 5th round was under Pep Clotet, and they went to Leicester and lost quite narrowly. So yeah, I'd love Blues to get past Leicester and get somebody rubbish at home and get into the quarterfinals. That'd be brilliant. West Brom away again. It's difficult to. Oh, wow, am I really going to go and say that Blues are going to beat West Brom away? I suppose they have beaten Carlos Corberán. Is it the last 2 or the last 3?
They've won the last 3. It was the last 2 with Corberán.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. The last.
Maybe last 4. Last 4, wasn't it?
The last time they went to the Hawthorns was Steve Bruce was still manager. That was the Scott Hogan hat trick.
Yeah.
Okay, I still. That said, I still don't expect them to go to West Brom and win. Albeit Corberan has got that West Brom team stuck together with gaffer tape and a prayer, hasn't he? They've got so many injuries. So that's 2 draws. Sheffield Wednesday, yeah, why not? Let's go and get 3 at Sheffield Wednesday. And Blackburn at home. I've always been a John Dahl Thomason denier, I've got to say. He's not a lucky manager, of course he's not, but I just think his teams are beatable. And that's even when his teams have beaten Blues left, right, and centre. I just think you've got a chance with John Dahl Thomason. Stoke a point, West Brom a point, Wednesday 3 points. That's 5. I'm not going to sit here and going to take 8 points from 5 games. I'll say 6 points, however they come.
Blackburn have the worst defence in the Championship, conceded 52 goals in 27 matches. So, yeah, we could see that, though, when Blues played them, at the end of November. Blues, went 3-0 down and probably still could have won that game. It was crazy. I'm going to go win against Stoke. I'm not going to be too positive on this one. Win against Stoke. I think it's going to be, I think Blues have had so much, good fortune and luck against West Bromwich Albion. It's going to run out at some point, isn't it? I'll go for a defeat there because West Brom are playing well. And then I'll go for a point at Sheffield Wednesday to win against Blackburn. So that's 7, isn't it? 7 from 4. I'm doing it again, Brian. I'm doing it again.
Relegation candidates into promotion form, absolutely. Yeah.
Blues, I think they'll get a healthy points return from those 4. And like you say, against Leicester, it's a free hit, isn't it? If Blues can get through and get a lowly ranked team at home and get through to the quarterfinals, then fantastic. This season in the league has probably gone now in terms of hopes of competing at the top end. So if Blues can get a little cup run, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? And give us something to extra talk about.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Moving on to questions, Brian.
Yeah.
I've had a fair few questions this week, and not as many takes, but questions-wise, we're going to start with Adam at Deprived KRO, and it's fair to say Blues fans have been deprived over the last 12 or 13 years. A question for you both. Would you sell Jordan James if it would improve the team, or wait till the end of the season? Also, would you look at moving on Bielik and Longelo in the summer? Brian, I'm going to take the last part of that question first, Bielik and Longelo. I think we touched on Bielik. It's down to him to prove that he can be part of the new format and way of playing going forward. Longelo's still young. He's still learning. He's got to improve defensively to be a left back, but he's got so much quality going forward. I think Mowbray's going to see something to work with there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I'm the Blues press team kind of teased me about liking Longelo, and yes, I know there's so many defensive shortcomings. Even last night there were issues like could you have done better on Hull's goal? Maybe covered across and blocked the run. Potentially, Longelo has got a long way to go, but he also has things that I think Mowbray will, that sort of X factor. I think Mowbray could find those potentially quite exciting. If he can develop Longelo, then Blues could have a good player down the road. I'm certainly not for selling Longelo just for the sake of it. I like to see where he is, after half a season under Mowbray. And yeah, I agree with Bielik. It's the ball's in Bielik's court. Which brings us to Jordan James, doesn't it? You can go. Do you want to go?
Yeah, go on. So this is obviously, this is for me Blues January transfer window. Jordan James is probably it. So if Mowbray's talked about it at length, in that there's obviously a team very interested in him in Serie A side Atalanta, and bids have been rejected already. They've clearly not hit the number Blues want. We don't know that number, can't claim to know that number. Some people have asked us to discuss what a fair price would be for Jordan James at the moment. Brian, if we're saying that, I think a player who scored 6 goals from midfield in, let's face it, half a season because he wasn't getting lucky under John Eustace. Wales international, fully fledged now, getting rave reviews there. 19 years old. I think you've got to be looking probably 8 million, 7-8 million. I know he's not had, a fantastic time in the Championship, but he's been very good this season. He's obviously making waves on the international stage. I think you've got to be looking at 7 or 8 million. And that's not me saying that with any knowledge of what Blues want for Jordan James, but I think if you look at that figure, Tony Mowbray could sign 2 or 3 quality players in this window that could come straight into the Blues setup and make a difference. Am I saying I'd sell Jordan James? I'm not saying I'd sell him, because I think when you sell a player of 19 who hasn't had that much game time and hasn't done that much, then you're probably going to look at it further down the line and think, oh, we made an error there when he's playing in the Champions League or European football for Atlanta and doing really well, and he's still a regular for Wales. If he does go, I'd like to see a nice little sell-on percentage in there, similar to the deal with Jude Bellingham. I think there's obviously going to be money to be made for whoever does sign Jordan James. I think he's going to have a good career. So, if he comes back to the Premier League in 3 years for £25 million, I'd like to be safe in the knowledge that Blues are getting a slice of that. But if they can do that business this window, and we do know money is very tight, and it's not been helped by the 2 managerial payoffs they've had because they've sacked 2 managers this season. But yeah, if they can do that deal and Mowbray's on board, I think we've got to trust him. He's done it before at West Brom. He sold players there back in the day when I think their fans weren't quite sure, but he ended up signing players with the money that he created. So I think you've got to trust Mowbray. He's an experienced manager at this level. If he is happy with the money they're getting for James and can see 2 players that could come in with the money it creates, then that's what's going to happen. But obviously Jordan James has got to want to move as well.
Yeah. 7 or 8 million, I would agree with that. What I would say about James is I was a little bit sceptical. I wasn't sure quite what kind of player he was. Until quite recently, actually, to be fair. We're talking months here rather than a couple of years. I actually think he's starting to play football like a man now, and he affects games, doesn't he? I think if you're looking at the best day, I don't think Blues are in danger of going down this season. So I would back Mowbray to coach them into a coherent side to keep them clear. The next stage of that is, so I don't think they need to sell Jordan James now to buy players to keep them up. So I'd potentially like to see him carry on developing, carry on scoring goals, affecting games, and if he's got 10, 12 from midfield by the end of the season, and potentially, I think Wales have got plenty of work to do to get to the Euros. But if he does get to the Euros and has a good Euros there, then you may even be talking 9-10, mightn't you? Which in today's market would go a very, very long way. So for me, I think I'm just in the not sell camp unless it's an absolute knock your socks off offer.
Maybe more than that, Brian. You look at, I'm not comparing players, but Alex Scott from Bristol City, similar age, Jordan James, went to Bournemouth last year for like 25 million.
Yeah.
I know he's probably more an exciting number 10 type player than Jordan James. Is probably more of sees himself as a 6, probably an 8 at a push. But yeah, what if he stays and scores 10 goals? Alex Scott didn't score 10 goals in the Championship last season. So, before the age of 20, Jordan James could have almost 100 first-team appearances.
Yeah.
He would be worth good money. I don't think there's a real lose situation for Blues with as far as this goes, because I think Mowbray seems relaxed either way. If Jordan James goes and Blues get, as long as they get a good fee and a potential sell-on, and it brings in players, then that's fine. If he stays, we know his value is only going to increase from here. So I think it's probably a bit of a win-win situation. Adam Nicholas, next question. Is Bielik at centre-back now a real option for Tony Mowbray? Where do you see him fitting in? The midfield setup, speed and press after the subs against Hull was the best I've seen for some time. Brian?
You've taught me in by making reference to Lyndon Gooch and Luke O'Neill that maybe Mowbray will turn him into a centre back. My initial reaction is no. I don't think he's athletic enough. He's not as quick as Sanderson. It doesn't look like from the outset, just from the eye test. I would say no. I wouldn't fancy that for him or for Blues. I still see his role going forward as a central midfielder, albeit someone we've said that, as a six, someone that we've said that needs to, the ball's in his court, and he needs to make the step up to play effectively under Mowbray. So yeah, Mowbray's got a record of makeshift centre backs. O'Neill's quite quick and nimble, and Gooch's as well. And I don't see that sort of physical agility from Bielik to be a reliable centre back, particularly one, where in a system where Blues are potentially going to play quite a high line. You?
No, I think I'm in agreement on that. The only thing I would say is that if it does become a back three in possession, I think that gives him a little bit of extra protection if he's playing in the middle, particularly if he's got two full-backs, i.e. Buchanan, Dramé, or even Dion Sanderson, who's quite quick on the outside of him. That would help. Maybe Bielik would be better in possession in a Mowbray team if he's got more of the game in front of him and isn't under such pressure when he gets on the ball, which is always the case in midfield. If he's just one layer back, then he'll obviously have more time. We saw that in the second half against Hull. As you said, ball's in Bielik's court. He needs to make sure that he fits in because he's good enough to, let's be honest. Next question from Paul Spindler. Does the mood inside the camp seem good? Players seem happier? Blues lost 9 in 15 under Rooney. They're unbeaten in 3 since he left. I'm not saying that players are running around smiling and happy that Rooney's gone or whatever, but the performances seem more coherent. They seem to understand what they're doing a little bit more now. And I can only, the difference between Mowbray and Rooney, in my opinion, one of the main differences I've noticed is their characters are very different. I'm not saying Rooney's a dour guy or, whatever. He's a very pleasant guy. As we said earlier, very calm. Mowbray's extremely upbeat is one of the things that I've noticed about him, in that he's probably someone who I can imagine would pick players up quite quickly. He did say that in his first press conference, in that, even if his team loses on a Saturday, he gets over it by Monday. He can't come in still being miserable and letting that, transmit to the players. He's a singer, as we know. He's probably gonna get people up by that when he's walking around whistling and singing on a Monday morning. He speaks a lot about focusing on the players' strengths and what they're good at, and players nowadays, they do. Sorry, my earphones fell out. They do like to. I think positive message reinforcement is such a big thing in football and coaching now. I remember watching Johnny Eustace, and I hate to hark back, but he was very good at that. I thought I saw Liam Rossini in the Hull game, bright up and coming young coach, very big on positive messages every time Hull played out from the back in the way he wanted. He was clapping and you could hear him. Mowbray seems similar on the touchline. Yes, we can see when he's not happy with someone, but we can also see when he is happy and when something goes well. So the players, you never really notice a great change or difference in their demeanor when you speak to them from time to time. You could see that they were frustrated and upset with the results and performances under Rooney whenever I was speaking to them after games. And you can see they're a little bit more upbeat now. When you speak to them after the game, I spoke to Kevin Long after Swansea and Juninho Bacuna after the Hull win. So, I don't know. It seems like they know their jobs now. That's the one thing I will say. I don't think they're running around smiling, and they weren't running around smiling to Rooney. Results breed confidence, don't they? And I think the last 3 performances since Rooney has left have been a clear and obvious improvement for me.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're happy. I don't speak to them and to the extent that you do. Feels like they've got more energy. I thought even under Steve Spooner at Hull, I felt they had more energy. So that potentially is significant. And it also felt like they were just losing a little bit of faith, or the confidence was being eroded with what had gone before. So those are my observations.
Last question, Alex Hans, and we have got a few on the theme of transfers. Have you heard anything on any progress regarding potential incomings and outgoings? Brian, it has been, to be fair, quite a quiet window for Blues so far. And I think we expected this a little bit because the bigger window is going to come in the summer. That's the impression we're getting. We had that impression from Tom Wagner, from his address at the open house. We had that impression from speaking to Gary Cook. We had that impression from Wayne Rooney. And now we're getting that impression from Tony Mowbray as well. Because there are so many players out of contract in the summer. Some of the bigger earners as well from the pre-pandemic contract. So, notable changes can be made. With regards to this window, I think if Wayne Rooney was here, Blues would have been a little bit busier by now. He was quite keen to get some fresh faces into the building. But that's always something a manager will be keen to do when results are going poorly. Mowbray very much kind of seeing what he's got, I think. I do still think Blues will do a little bit of business. I think it could, as I mentioned earlier, depend on whether Jordan James moves on for good money or not. But even if he doesn't, I would still expect Blues to strengthen in a couple of areas. Where they strengthen, I'm not so sure at the moment. Under Rooney, I would have said spine of the team. Mowbray could see things differently. I still do think they're a little bit light at centre-back. A ball-playing centre-back could go a long way, in my opinion. Potentially a solid number 6, but I'm also willing to give Christian Bielik the benefit of the doubt and chance to prove himself in the remaining 19, 20 games of this season. And because of the injury to Lukas Djukovic and the fact Mowbray has come in and instantly moved Jay Stansfield back a position, I think Blues are pretty light up front. So maybe a striker who fits the Mowbray mould as a more energetic front man, a younger front man, might be an option too. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't think there'll be a lot of business between now and the end of the window.
No, not. I think there'll be one or two. I wouldn't be surprised if they're mainly loans. I think that might be the route they go down. Normally, at this time of window, the Jungle Drums have started beating a little bit. I think they stopped entirely during the management change and search for a new manager for understandable reasons. Not really here. One or two sort of things which I couldn't stand up at the moment. Just a bit of gossip, but yeah, it won't be no one, but it won't be many. Would be my take.
Just a one take this week from Mick, regular listener. Did you notice in just his second game, we are already seeing us in front on possession stats with the same players the previous managers had? That's really impressive this early on from Tony Mowbray. We did touch on that a little bit earlier, and I don't know off the top of my head, and I really should have researched it before we started, but I've been looking at the possession statistics a hell of a lot this season. I was making the comparison between Wayne Rooney and John Eustace, and it was interesting that John Eustace's team actually had more possession on average than Wayne Rooney's. Rooney was down at 41.7% across his 15 games average. Mowbray already has had 56% possession. I can only say maybe 3 or 4 games this season Blues have had more of the ball, so that's a really positive sign for me if they're doing that already against a Hull team that are used to having a lot of the ball under Liam Rossini and have been coached that way for 18 months now. I think it's only going to get better going forward. Mowbray wants more of the ball. He wants more shots. He's going to create a team that are comfortable in possession. He knows how to find those sorts of players. But yeah, I agree with Mick. It does bode very well.
Yeah, and it's interesting. They had 47% against Swansea as well, which you said earlier was not what Mowbray was expecting. It's interesting, how the players seem to have a little bit more belief and a little bit more confidence to possess the ball and not just get rid of it. Now the next stage is moving it quickly, isn't it? And getting it into attacking positions. But yeah, pleasing signs there. And as I said earlier, slightly surprised at how much they did play and how deep they played from against Swansea. But as I've always said, Tony Mowbray is a man who knows what the roadmap looks like, and he seems to have already got a handle on where Blues are on that roadmap, and hopefully good progress to come along it.
Yeah, definitely proven at this level, and I'm sure the players obviously seen that as well, and are clearly already buying into his methods. I think that just about wraps things up, Brian. Thank you for everyone who's listening. Thank you to everyone who sent in the questions and takes as ever. Really important part of the podcast. And hopefully we're celebrating a first win for Tony Mowbray in the Championship at Stoke City this weekend. Thanks everyone for listening, and a keep right on from both of us.